Welcome back. President Biden is expected to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit next week in San Francisco. The meeting coming amid a surge in espionage activity by the CCP against America, including a spy balloon over the continental United States, secret police stations in major U.S. cities, intimidation of U.S. military flights and ships, and China's role in the flow of fentanyl into America, which, of course, is killing American citizens. Meanwhile, China is also exerting its influence over Israel's war against Hamas on TikTok, with its algorithms suppressing posts supporting Israel and expanding propaganda of Hamas support. Joining me right now is the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Admiral Michael Mullen. Admiral, thank you very much for being here this morning. We have a lot to talk about. From your standpoint, what is most important and most urgent right now?
I think the most urgent challenge right now, Maria, is the Middle East. Obviously, what's happened in Israel and to Israel. And my biggest worry is actually that could spin out of control to a larger war in the Middle East. And I think leaders around the world need to figure out a way to try to help contain that. And that includes us. It includes Arab leaders and European leaders, as well as Xi Jinping, the leader of China. That's the biggest concern that I have. I think Hamas, basically, when this happened, I described it as a suicide act on their part. I know the Israelis very well. I think they're going to do everything they possibly can to eliminate it. And I think the key question is, which a lot of people are asking, is what's next? Part of what's next is Hamas is no longer in charge of Gaza. Part of what it needs to be next is who's going to run Gaza, who's going to take care of those people. And I would like to see long-term a solution that gets to a two-state option, which has been talked about a lot, and actually get to a point where there is a resolution consistent with the Abraham Accords that aligns many of the Middle East countries, the Arab countries, with Israel. That's going to be tough given what's happened, but it should be something we focus on.
And, of course, the Abraham Accords architect was just with us, Secretary Mike Pompeo. They were getting close to the Saudis joining the Abraham Accords, and then this happened. So you think that's most urgent. What about what's most important?
Well, in addition to what's most urgent, I think we've got to come to grips with how to isolate Iran. It's almost like, can we, and it's a huge challenge, make Iran the North Korea of the Persian Gulf in any way possible. They are behind all of this. It's been almost 45 years, and we haven't figured that out. And we need to, as an international community, figure that out. I think what's most important is our relationship with China. I think that is long-term the biggest danger on the planet, focused heavily on Taiwan, and focused in a way where Xi Jinping seems to be leaning heavily to do something in terms of making sure Taiwan becomes part of China, and the Taiwanese people are more and more independent, more and more independent-minded. They have a key election the beginning of next year, which will send a big signal as well. And it's as if they're pulling apart. And the more and more they pull apart without leadership from the top, without leadership from Xi Jinping and from President Biden to come together and say, we're not going to go to war over Taiwan, and we'll figure out how to do that, it's just going to get more and more dangerous. I actually think from a relationship standpoint, Maria, China and the U.S. continue to come apart. And I think that's dangerous, not just for us, but for the world.
Well, I mean, you want them to come out of this meeting next week and say, we won't go to war over Taiwan, right?
I think that would be a huge first step.
So, I mean, look, the CCP has been stealing intellectual property for decades. They're intimidating our people. They are, behind the flow of fentanyl into America. What should the U.S. do in terms of a response? Some people say, well, look, I want to decouple. I'm ready to have this thing come apart. Why do you believe it's so dangerous?
I just think if we decouple, we have no way to communicate. And we have every way to miscalculate. I mean, we have over 1,300 sanctions on the Chinese. I don't know how effective they are. But for instance, the fentanyl issue. We've got the two companies that actually make the precursors. We've got them sanctioned. And the Chinese are saying, we're not going to let you deal with these companies or deal with this issue until the sanctions are removed. So I think we have to have ways to stay in touch. Obviously, economically, we are hugely integrated with each other. And so decoupling can't happen overnight. I think it's the responsibility of leaders who are in charge of this relationship to bring us forward in a way so we can both live on this earth in a constructive way. We don't have to like each other. We don't have to be great friends, but we're going to have to deal with each other so that the peoples of our country and the world can see a better way of life.
Well, again, why? Why is it so dangerous?
Because we don't have any way to talk to each other, because we will be full of disputes. And at the same time, and I'm actually happy to see us to start talk about nuclear weapons. Chinese, their buildup of nuclear weapons, these weapons that can essentially eliminate the world, has been extraordinary. And to not be able to have discussions about how do you contain those weapons, which could end life on Earth, I think is really important. And if we're completely apart, there's no way to have those discussions as they build up their military and their capability, and we do the same thing. The outcome of that, without any way to connect with each other, I think portends a disaster for the world.
Admiral, I want to ask you about our own weapons and whether or not you feel good about that and where we are. We hope you'll come back soon. Admiral Michael Mullen, thank you, sir. And thank you for your service.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.